Well, my guests today are on a mission to challenge young people to love Christ and embrace the life of the church. Well, how do they do this? By proclaiming the gospel of Christ through a personal witness of faith, by inviting young people to live for Christ, and by forming young people in Christian character through the study and practice of our faith, and by equipping youth workers and young adults with the ministry skills needed for evangelism. Doesn't that sound awesome? I'm joined today by Francis and Julia. Guys, thank you so much for being here today.
It's a joy to be here.
It's so good to be here.
Is it really a joy? Are you very joyous to be here today?
It's great to be here with both Joes. We have you and we have the coffee.
Oh, Joe, she's going to fit in just fine. Hey, let me ask you guys a question. Tell us about NET. It sounds cool, but what actually is it? Whoever wants to respond.
NET stands for National Evangelization Teams.
Okay.
And what that looks like practically is each year we train approximately 50 young people between the ages of 18 and 30 to go across Canada, either traveling or we have some local teams, and we minister each year to over 25,000 youth.
25,000 youth.
And
that's in Canada?
Yes.
Wow.
And what that looks like is simply we share our own personal witness and testimony of how we've come to encounter God's love and His mercy, with the invitation for them to do the same.
That's awesome.
We go to high schools and elementary schools and we meet them where they're at, and it's kind of a shock because you've got everyday life and then there's this experience of young people coming with not homework, not with expectations, but merely just a message of, hey, God knows your name and wants to hang out, wants to be a friend, but most especially loves you. So it's a pleasure to share that, you know.
You know, I love the way you describe relationship with God. You know, He just wants to hang out. You know, it's such a young person thing to say, which is fantastic, because I said at the opener, sometimes young people get a bad rap. Oh, they're lazy or they're selfish. They don't care about this or about that. And then enter you guys in this organization that you represent, doing so much for God. I just want to honor you guys and just say thank you so much for what you're doing, because I'm a dad of young people, and it's great to know that there are folks like you going out into the schools. What are the kids' reactions like when they're expecting, or maybe they don't know what they're expecting, and walk into young kids and they start talking about God? Like, what's the reaction?
Yeah. Well, let's just look at society, what it's like, and then see what happens when you've got a society that cares a lot about material possessions or isn't given any Christian background at all. So like there's no emphasis on truth. So it's like you walk into the world and it's like what you believe is right for you, what I believe is right for me.
Right.
Let's just keep on our own, just thinking what we believe, and everyone will be fine. So there's a lack of passion. And when you see that, like this passion for something that's so different, and there's the joy, there's the fun, it's like, wow, I can actually be a Christian in the modern world, you know, like. It's crazy. It's not an archaic medieval thing. It's real and it's alive, and it's really cool because it can really blow youth that we meet off their feet. Yeah.
And typically speaking, we'll do retreats with high school. We work with grade 6 through high school, but typically we'll do a day-long retreat with high school students. And throughout the day, we lead them in games and worship, and we have talks and testimonies, as well as time for small group. And within small group, it's a little bit more of an intimate setting where we share a little bit more deeply, and the young people are encouraged to do the same. So it's kind of throughout the day, they open their hearts, and we open ours as well.
Yeah, well, I can tell you guys you're authentic in your faith, you're authentic in what you're doing. I think that today's young people, they can smell a phony a mile away, and I think that's why you guys are seeing success, even as a movement and as individuals. You guys really love God, you guys really love what you're doing, and that really comes across, and I hope it's coming across to you guys at home as well. Now, you talk about this great ministry, but tell me, how did you guys, maybe one at a time, we'll start with you, Julia, how did you come to be a part of NET, or how did it impact your life?
Sure. I had, actually 10 years ago, I had NET come to my own church. And there was a team, like I mentioned earlier, we have local ministry. And so there was a team that stayed with us for a year and built up youth ministry within our own parish. And so I was privileged to be able to join that team for the year. And then after that,
How young were you?
I was approximately I think about 17, 18.
Wow, a really important part of life, a stage of life
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
impacted for Christ. That's awesome.
And so I was working, and I did multiple different jobs. I was working at the airport in Toronto, and wanted to be a flight attendant. And then I was praying and asking the Lord, what do you want? What are your plans for my life?
What a great question.
And I got a call from him, literally a phone call from the recruiter.
From heaven?
No, from the recruiter,
Oh, from the
with
recruiter.
NET.
Okay. It's a long distance call.
And they said, we need a female this year. One of the missionaries, due to visa issues, cannot go on the road. And would you be open to serving the Lord in this way? And I was shocked, but he just asked me to be open, and I was open. And a day later, I was interviewed and accepted, and a week later, I packed all my belongings, and I was gone for the year. And did it.
Where?
I did my mission year in Ireland and was sent to Scotland during that time. And then I came home, and I have such a passion for this mission and evangelization and just sharing that joy with others with that invitation, that I came to work for NET Canada. And in February, it'll be 2 years.
That's amazing. I love you got infected with that passion, man.
Absolutely.
What about you, man?
Great question. What's this Australian lad doing in Canada?
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, but there was an accent there, right?
Yeah, totally.
Not Alberta.
Yeah, no, not Alberta, not Quebec, not Middle Earth. It's Australian for sure.
Okay.
My story in encountering Christ and then wanting to go to NET starts. I grew up in a Christian household. My parents loved sharing the Bible stories with me, going to church. I loved it. There was nothing. I love the idea of God. David throwing a stone at Goliath, headshot. No worries. What's not to love about that? But it's like you go on through life, and I ended up in university studying engineering my second year, and there was a split. There was a split within me. It's like, I know what's right by God and by what I know is right in my heart, but I also want to do all these things. I only care about, relationships with my mates, my friends in Australia. Girls, that gets interesting at some point in life too. Career, money, success. I was wanting to DJ at the time, so there's a whole secular, worldly environment attached with that.
Yeah.
But my friend tells me, go to this prayer group. And I'm like, okay. But I made that decision to go, come a bit late, and there's 150 young adults praising God, listening to talk about Christ. And I see them being so wonderful, so beautiful, so attractive, with high dignity. And it's like, wow, this is what I want. I met a NET team the first time I went to this prayer group.
This is all back home?
Yeah, all back home in Australia. NET, you're right, the NET is in Australia. It's in a few countries. And this team shows me such love and gentleness along this journey, and testifying to me, yeah, we pray every day. Yeah, we do this out of as volunteers. And I'm like, what? And the weeks go on, and I'm just praying there with this example of all these people I'm meeting. And I hear Christ tell me, Francis, that's my name. So
I assume that, yeah.
It's an important part, called by name. And Francis, you can experience satisfaction and purpose that you're seeking, have an adventure, and just choose me. You don't need these other things. You can choose me and receive that fulfillment you're seeking. And along that line, this NET team helps me with this conversion of heart. And then one of the team members is like, hey, NET Canada needs men. And I'm like, well, I'm a man. I've been changed. I'm off. And it's been wonderful. It's been 2 and a bit years now. So.
Oh my goodness. We love hearing stories of ministry. Thank you for sharing both of your stories. I gotta wonder, you must have met some really interesting people in your travels. Is there a story that just kind of stands out where you said, wow, look at what God did in this person's life? And 2 minutes or less.
Yeah, totally. I have a story.
Sure.
It was in Vancouver. Which it's cool because our offices, we're actually expanding offices, and one of the places we're going to is Vancouver in Quebec. But when I was in my mission year, I went to Vancouver, and there was a grade 10 retreat we were running. And we have small groups. And one of the individuals in my small group I would describe in my language as an alpha, which means by not even speaking, they influence their friends, whether it's for good, for bad. And we're at a prayer ministry at the end, which is the key part of the retreat for us, where we get to pray with the youth and ask them, hey, can I put my hand on your shoulder? Is that okay? I just want to pray and ask, open yourself up. If there's a God, or if you already believe in God, just open yourself up to Christ in your life. And I'm doing that, and it's a silent blessing. I walk away, but this gentleman, this young guy, comes to me after the retreat and is like, hey, I knew Christ was there. I was like,
Wow.
what do you mean Christ was there? And he says, you know, when you left, like you had your hand on my shoulder, and when you left, I still felt a hand there. I knew Jesus was there. Now, I don't know what this guy's going through right now, where he is. He's probably grade 12 now. But you never know what that one moment, that seed of faith that, you know, allowing for a mission team to come in to an environment can do for one's journey and search for Christ after that. So,
You know, I want to have more stories, but you're not going to believe this. We're actually out of time, if you can believe it. You know, you guys were so great in sharing, and I'm encouraged as a parent. And can you promise that you'll come back at some point and talk to us some more?
Sure.
we'd love to, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I hope you're encouraged. You might be a parent out there, you know, and we believe in ministering to that next generation. In fact, it's all about generation to generation. And these young people are representing a movement in this country. God is using young people, and we are encouraged. And I hope you are too.